Making headlines this hour, President notes during an appearance on the PSM news program Nation Chat that formulation of the National Development Master Plan is nearly complete and the administration's target is to bring equitable development to every region. First Lady Sajida Mohammed says that the Maldives has achieved significant progress in protecting the health and well-being of mothers and children over the past 2 years. Minister of Defence and National Service Hassan Rashid states that the current administration has undertaken great efforts than previous governments to develop the Maldives National Defence Force.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. Now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz notes during an appearance on the PSM News' program Nation Chat that formulation of the National Development Master Plan is nearly complete and the administration's target is to bring equitable development to every region.
The policy focuses on decentralized development across all islands rather than concentrating growth within Malé. President Muizu asserted during the first 2 years and 8 months of the current administration, 590 projects across various sectors have been completed. By contrast, the former Maldivian Democratic Party administration completed 285 projects over a comparable duration, while the administration preceding it finalized 321. Work is currently progressing on 1,635 projects, exceeding past volumes. During equivalent periods, the previous administration carried out 414 projects, while the administration prior executed 355. Development initiatives are advancing through a structured roadmap with implementation over the next 2 years, mapped alongside cash flow management, budgetary allocation, loan servicing, and debt repayment. Addressing community facilities, President Muizu noted that completing children's park and outdoor gyms across every island is something that has never been achieved before, adding that fitness and waste management centers will be finalized well before 26th July 2028. Statistics were disclosed during his Independence Day address. The President said, "The initial master plan draft is nearly complete, with the sectoral stakeholder validation workshop planned ahead of a November release. Manifesto provisions are being implemented to expand gross domestic product and secure the Maldives' transition into developed status by 2040.
First Lady Sajida Mohammed says that the Maldives has achieved significant progress in protecting the health and well-being of mothers and children over the past 2 years.
The First Lady made the remarks in a social media post to mark World Breastfeeding Week. The First Lady highlighted that the time and sacrifice mothers dedicate to breastfeeding their children is one of the greatest expressions of maternal love. She noted that breastfeeding strengthens a child's immune system, fosters a strong bond between mother and child, and lays the foundation for lifelong health and well-being. She also pointed to a number of important achievements made over the past 2 years to improve maternal and child health. Among these is the extension of paid nursing breaks for working mothers, allowing them time to breastfeed their children from 1 year to 2 years. She added that further measures have been introduced to strengthen paid maternity leave and expand health protection for mothers and children. The First Lady stressed the importance of mothers making full use of the rights and support provided by the government, including maternity leave and nursing breaks, to ensure children have the healthiest possible start in life. She also emphasized that supporting mothers is a shared responsibility of families, employers, and society as a whole. Under recent amendments to the Employment Act, mothers returning to work after maternity leave are entitled to 2 paid 30-minute nursing breaks each working day to attend to their child. Previously, this entitlement was available for 1 year after childbirth, but amendments ratified in mid-March this year extended the period to 2 years. In addition, the law provides mothers with 6 months of maternity leave following childbirth. This year's World Breastfeeding Week theme is Prioritizing Breastfeeding, Create Sustainable Support Systems. In line with the theme, the First Lady called on everyone to renew their commitment to strengthening support for breastfeeding and ensuring sustained measures that benefit mothers and children. World Breastfeeding Week is observed annually during the first week of August.
Minister of Defence and National Service Hassan Rashid states that the current administration has undertaken greater efforts than previous governments to develop the Maldives National Defence Force (MNDF). The Defence Minister made the remarks while speaking at the graduation ceremony of MNDF's 73rd Basic Training Course. The Minister said development efforts have been ongoing since day one of President Dr. Mohamed Muiz's administration. He highlighted the Coast Guard Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre in Vilimale as a major step forward for the military. He further noted military assistance provided by friendly nations and said the MNDF would have full control over gifted equipment and assets. The minister further said a key priority of the military is to preserve freedom for future generations. He said soldiers must be physically capable, spiritually and intellectually prepared and able to fulfill their responsibilities. MNDF College of Defence and Security Studies conducted the 73rd Basic Training Course at Girifushi Training Centre for a 4-month period starting 7th March 2026. Graduates were sworn in at a ceremony on 16th July 2026. The basic training course aims to equip new recruits with essential military knowledge and skills, patriotism, discipline, moral values and obedience, and the physical fitness needed for the military duties. The Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises announces that as of 23rd July, the state had collected $1.56 billion in revenue and grants, equivalent to 60% of the projected $2.26 billion for the fiscal year.
This figure represents a 10.9% increase over the same period in 2025, driven largely by a rise in tax receipts. Tax revenue alone climbed to $1.19 billion, up 12.1% from the previous year. Within the tax base, the Goods and Services Tax (GST) remained the largest contributor, delivering $648.51 million, a 9.7% gain year-on-year. The GST breakdown shows strong performance in both its components. General GST rose 13.6% to $201.04 million, while Tourism GST increased 8% to $447.47 million, marking the highest growth among tax categories. On the expenditure side, total recurrent and capital spending reached $1.65 billion, up 19.7% compared with the same period last year. The increase reflects higher outlays for civil servant salaries and wages, 9.5% to $551.23 million. The National Health Insurance Scheme Asanda 14.8% to $77.82 million, and subsidies, which surged 79% to $207.52 million amid global oil and commodity price spikes linked to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Despite the robust revenue growth, the fiscal balance shows a primary surplus of $97.28 million, but an overall deficit of $90.79 million.
The second school term begins following the first term school break. Students began their mid-term holiday on 16th July after completing the first term and returned to classes following a 16-day break. The second term will continue until 17th December. Students will then begin their year-end holiday from 18th December until 16th January, giving them a 30-day break. More than 77,000 students are enrolled in 218 government schools during the current academic year. A total of 4,790 students have also been allocated places in grade 1 for this year. Of them, 1,748 students have been enrolled in grade 1 at the schools in the Greater Male area, while 3,042 students have been allocated places at schools across the atolls. Following the year-end holiday, the new academic year will begin on 17th January. Hulumale Hospital prepares to introduce a dental laboratory and expand several other services as part of ongoing efforts to strengthen healthcare provision in line with the growing population of Hulumale.
The hospital has expanded its facilities and introduced several new services over the past 2 years. Additional services have also been launched this year, while work is continuing to introduce further services in the coming period. Speaking on PSM News' Rajamiyadu program, Hulumale Hospital Director General Musa Halim Qasim said preparations were underway to establish a dental laboratory at the hospital, as highlighted by the President Dr. Mohammad Muiz in his presidential address. He said the final preparation required to begin the service within this year were currently underway. Director General Khalim also said work is in progress to further expand the hospital's mental health treatment services. This includes expanding mental health outpatient service and establishing a dedicated ward where patients can be admitted for treatment. He said one of the main challenges was the absence of adequate arrangements to provide the service at the required level. Solutions were being sought, while patient mental health treatment was currently available only at Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital, which he described as a major challenge. Director General Khalim said the completion of the project would ease access to treatment for patients seeking these services. Chief Executive Officer of the Male City Group of Hospital, Ibrahim Abdul Razzaq Halim, said major national level projects were being implemented to expand healthcare services across the Male region. He noted that it would take additional time to begin providing services after the completion of the projects. However, he said work was also being carried out to improve healthcare services before the projects were completed. Among the major projects planned for the Male region are the expansion of facilities at Hulumale Hospital and the development of a new 250-bed building. A 500-bed hospital is also planned for Hulumale Phase 2. CEO Halim said the hospital would provide specialized treatment for cancer patients, women and children. He said the project would enable the planned services to be introduced once they were completed. Until then, efforts would continue to use existing resources sustainably and improve services provided to the public from one day to the next.
Waste Management Corporation, WEMCO, completes the preparations to begin work on developing waste management centers on most of the 34 islands assigned to the company.
The development of waste management centers on islands without such facilities is part of ongoing efforts under a nationwide system to address the Mauritius waste management challenges. As part of this initiative, different companies have been tasked with developing waste management centers on various islands. Speaking to PSM News, WEMCO's General Manager Ismail Ubaid said the company has been assigned to develop waste management centers on 34 islands. He said resources have already been mobilized on 90% of those islands, with preparation completed to commence work. He explained that work has not yet started on the remaining islands because locations for the waste management centers have not been designated in their land use plan. The Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy has previously stated that work is underway to establish waste management centers on 129 islands by the end of July next year. Of these, 110 islands have been assigned to MTCC, FENACA, RDC and WEMCO, while the remaining 19 islands have been assigned to private companies.
The Privatization and Corporatization Board (PCB) announces that Sarjad Latif has been appointed to the Board of Directors of Agro National Corporation Limited (AgroNet) in the capacity of Accounting and Finance member. Shazhat, who has served as a budget analyst at the Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises since 2017, brings a robust background in fiscal management to the agro-industry giant. In her current role, she formulates the annual national budget, evaluates baseline allocations, analyses expenditure trends, oversees budget control mechanisms, and conducts comprehensive fiscal risk assessments. Beyond analytical duties, she provides strategic budget-related guidance to numerous government agencies and is instrumental in preparing key publications such as the Budget Statistics Book and the Fiscal Risk Statement. Academically, she holds a Master of Business Administration (MBA) in Finance from the University of Bedfordshire and a Bachelor of Arts Honours in Accounting and Finance from the University of the West of England. The Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy and the Ministry of Fisheries, Agriculture and Ocean Resources formally signed a Memorandum of Understanding to launch agroforestry farms across 10 selected islands of the archipelago.
The agreement aims to strengthen national food security, support the nationwide 5 million trees planting program, and promote sustainable economic development. Under the MOU, the Agriculture Ministry will provide 400,000 saplings to be planted on the designated islands, where the lands will be converted into mixed-use agroforestry systems combining fruit-bearing trees, nitrogen-fixing species, and staple crops. The initiative dovetails with the ongoing 5 million tree planting program, which to date has seen 1.8 million trees planted nationwide. In addition, the ministries announced that agreements have already been secured with the respective island councils to set up 10 community-run nurseries, one on each participating island, to ensure a steady supply of planting material and local stewardship. According to the Environment Ministry, the integration of trees into agricultural landscapes will not only increase yields and diversify farmer income, but also enhance carbon sequestration, protect fragile coral reef ecosystems from runoff, and improve resilience to climate-related stresses. The Agriculture Ministry added that the agroforestry farms are expected to generate new market opportunities for agro-processed products, thereby reducing the Maldives' reliance on imported food and moving the nation towards greater self-sufficiency.
Flight attendants of Canada's WestJet goes on strike after failing to reach a deal with the country's second-largest carrier, grounding flights during the busy summer travel season.
The Canadian Union of Public Employees, CUPE, which represents 4,400 flight attendants at the carrier, did not provide details in a Facebook post on Sunday announcing the strike. CUPE and the airline did not immediately respond to email requests for comments outside business hours. The union is asking for its members to be paid from the time they check in to when they clock out, which is not currently the case. The strike highlights broader efforts by flight attendants in Canada and the US to challenge a compensation structure that mostly pays cabin crew when an aircraft is in motion. WestJet had cancelled 309 flights through Sunday night in anticipation of the strike. It did so to minimize the risk of stranding guests and aircraft, the company said on its website before the strike was announced.
Travel's like an essential service in a sense, right? Like, I get what they need to strike, they have to strike like for like their reasons or whatever, right? But people also need to get places. I mean, vacation's one thing, but like some people travel for other reasons too, right?
Before the strike began, one traveler at Toronto Pearson International Airport expressed concern about the impact on passengers, while another voiced support for workers.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the United States would, in the coming weeks, seek to restart talks aimed at ending the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Speaking to Fox News in a wide-ranging pre-taped interview, Rubio said Washington was looking for opportunities to revive diplomacy between Moscow and Kiev, although significant obstacles remain. On Cuba, Rubio described the communist-run island nation as a significant intelligence threat despite its small size and proximity to the United States. President Donald Trump has been seeking regime change in Cuba, where communists have been in charge since Raul Castro's late brother Fidel Castro led a revolution in 1959.
The average American, you see Cuba, small country, 90 miles off our shores, 9.5 million people population. What people forget that when it comes to things like espionage and influence operations, they actually are an influence and espionage superpower. If you look at the history of espionage in the United States, Cuba is the only country that consistently has implanted and embedded spies in our system.
The US has effectively imposed a blockade on Cuba by threatening sanctions on countries supplying it with fuel, triggering power outages, and delivering blows to its already fragile economy. On US-China relations, Rubio said Washington must balance competition with the world's second largest economy while avoiding conflict.
Colombian President Gustavo Petro calls for international solidarity to prevent a U.S. invasion of Cuba during his final official foreign trip before leaving office.
Petro proposed dialogue between Washington and Havana. Relations between Cuba and the United States have deteriorated sharply since January, when the U.S. imposed an oil embargo and additional sanctions that pushed Cuba's economy towards collapse. Trump has described Cuba as an extraordinary threat to U.S. national security and suggested that he could take control of the communist island located 150 kilometers from Florida. Petro and Colombia were among Cuba's last interlocutors in the region. The island hosted peace negotiations that led to Colombia's 2016 agreement with FARC guerrillas. Petro's successor, far-right President-elect Abelardo de la Espriella, announced last week that he would sever diplomatic relations with Cuba and Nicaragua upon taking office on August 7th, calling them tyrannies.
Luis Suarez scores a goal and assisted on another, but Columbus's Bryce Mendez's late equalizer left host Inter Miami and the Columbus crew with a 2-2 draw. British land speed record holder Andy Green returns to Utah's Bonneville Salt Flats in August to drive a hydrogen-powered car using engines derived from construction machinery as JCB seeks to demonstrate an alternative to batteries for heavy equipment.
According to motorsport governing body, the FIA, Green, a former Royal Air Force wing commander, holds the outright world land speed record after driving thrust SSC to 763.035 miles per hour in 1997, becoming the first and still only person to break the sound barrier on land. JCB said Green will drive its 32-foot Hydromax car powered by two of the company's hydrogen internal combustion engines, producing a combined 1,600 brake horsepower. The company said the car reached 208 miles per hour during testing at RAF Wittering in England in June.
I've been lucky enough not only to have the world's best day job flying jet fighters for the Royal Air Force, but also the world's best holiday job driving high-speed straight-line racing cars. 1997, I was the driver with the Thrust Supersonic car team, which did what it said on the tin. We got the car supersonic, 763 miles an hour. Speed of sound's about 750. So still today, almost 30 years later, that is the fastest car on the planet, a measure of just how technically difficult that was.
The attempt comes 20 years after Green drove JCB's Diesel Max car to an FIA certified diesel land speed record of 350.092 miles per hour at Bonneville, a mark JCB says still stands. The record bid is also a showcase for a strategic bet by the British construction equipment maker. JCB has invested £100 million in hydrogen combustion technology, arguing that while batteries can work well in smaller machines, they are less suited to large excavators, loaders, and agricultural equipment that need high power, long operating hours, and fast refueling, often on remote sites with limited charging infrastructure. Hydrogen combustion engines can be refueled in minutes and use technology closer to existing diesel engines, but their climate benefit depends on how the hydrogen is produced and whether supply infrastructure is available. Bonneville Speed Week started on Saturday, and the Hydromax record run is scheduled for August 11th.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.